They are my powers, and they are stronger than ever before. Much stronger. Now at last it is time for my vessels to lead us to a new world.
Everyone thinks the Upside Down is the scariest place in Stranger Things. But episode 6 introduces something worse, Camazotz. Because Camazotz isn't random chaos. It's built, designed, curated. It's a pocket dimension that feels like a nightmare, but behaves like a dungeon. And if you know one D&D concept, the Demiplane spell, you instantly understand what Henry created, why one specific location terrifies him, and how Max and Holly escape without overpowering him. Let's start with what episode 6 shows us. Camazotz looks like an endless desert, sand in every direction, no roads, no towns, no obvious landmarks. It feels infinite, like it's meant to erase your sense of direction and time. But it isn't random, because scattered across that desert are specific places that shouldn't be there unless someone placed them there on purpose. Locations pulled straight out of Henry's life. The library where he first met Holly. The woods where he was found after what happened to his family. And most importantly, the cave. That cave becomes the center of the entire escape attempt. And that's the first key point. Camazotz has structure. Dreams don't have consistent geography. In a nightmare, rooms shift, doors vanish, rules change. Nothing stays stable long enough to map. But in Camazotz, you can move from one location to another, like you're clearing rooms in order. It has layout. It has logic. It's navigable. That's demiplane thinking. In D&D, a demiplane is a pocket reality, a sealed bubble of existence separate from the normal world. It can have its own rules, its own physics, and most importantly, it's shaped by whoever made it. Think of it like this. The abyss is the house. Camazotz is a locked room inside it, a room someone built to hold people. And Henry built it the way powerful spellcasters build demiplanes in D&D, by shaping it with his mind. That's why the landscape is memory-based. Henry didn't create Camazotz from pure imagination. He built it from the places that defined him, the memories he can control, the scenes he wants to replay, the parts of himself he can tolerate living inside. And he sells it to the kids as a sanctuary. He literally tells them, "This is my home, therefore it can be your home too." That isn't kindness, it's strategy. Because fear creates resistance. A terrified kid looks for exits. A terrified kid fights. A terrified kid drains your attention. But a kid who believes they're safe complies. So Henry doesn't trap them with bars and chains. He traps them with hope. He gives them the light, a story about a perfect world, a future where they're safe, special, and heroic. But it's a lie that's stronger than a lock, because it makes the prisoners participate in their own captivity. That's what makes Camazotz so nasty. It's not just a prison, it's a persuasion machine. Now here's where the design cracks, and this is the biggest key point in the whole episode. Every demiplane has a weakness. Not because the creator is sloppy, but because the creator's mind is part of the structure. And minds have blind spots, trauma, avoidance, fear. Max starts to put the pieces together while they're trapped. She realizes Camazotz isn't built from their trauma alone. It's built around the moments where Henry stole them, the moments he can replay and control. But there's one thing Henry can't steal, his own mind, which means there should be one place inside Camazotz that Henry cannot comfortably confront, one location he'd rather never enter, one memory he can't rewrite, and that memory is the cave. In the flashback, the cave isn't just creepy, it's the moment Henry learns the worst truth possible about himself. He finds evidence of experimentation, pregnant women held captive, equipment, blood. The implication that his power, his origin, his entire identity wasn't destiny. It was manufacturing. He's not chosen. He's engineered. A prototype. A weapon built by people with authority. That discovery is the foundational wound. It's the moment his self-myth collapses, and he never recovers from it. So when Henry builds Camazotz, he includes the cave in the realm, but he designs the entire world to orbit around avoiding it. The boss has a phobia baked into his own dungeon, and that changes everything, because it means Max and Holly don't need to beat Henry in a fight. They need to reach the one place his mind refuses to follow. But Camazotz is huge. The desert is endless. So how do you find the cave before Henry intercepts you? You use a map. And this is where the show gets quietly brilliant. The map isn't some random parchment lying around. It's Holly's toy, the figurine she's been carrying the entire time. When they look at it the right way, they notice the cap isn't just decoration. It's encoded. Symbols, marks, a pattern. Holly realizes it first. The cap is a map Henry made when he was young. And when Max aligns that outline with the cave entrance, it matches perfectly. That's classic dungeon design logic. The dungeon contains the clue to escaping the dungeon, but the emotional twist is what matters more. The map comes from Henry's childhood, a piece of innocence that survived into the monster he became. It's like his younger self accidentally left behind a failsafe, and his older self can't erase it without confronting what he refuses to face. So Max and Holly move through Camazotz like a dungeon run. They pass through Henry's rooms, the library, the places where he promised safety, the locations where he manipulated, and finally, the cave. And here's the important mechanical rule the episode shows without spelling it out. Henry could end this instantly, but he doesn't. Not because he's weak, because he's constrained. Even in a Demiplane, the creator is still bound by the structure they built. If Henry breaks the rules completely, he risks collapsing the entire realm, including the prison he relies on. So Max and Holly escape by understanding the system better than the person who made it. They don't overpower the god, they outplay the dungeon. And the deeper message underneath all of it is simple. Camazotz isn't only a physical trap, it's an emotional one. A locked prisoner fights. A hopeful prisoner complies. So the real escape isn't just finding the cave, it's rejecting the lie, choosing truth over comfort, choosing each other over the sanctuary Henry is selling. Henry's trauma built the prison. But Max and Holly's connection is what lets them walk into the dark room he can't enter. One last quick detail. The name, Camazotz. Camazotz is a deathbat deity tied to underworld mythology. The show didn't pick it for vibes. It's signaling what this place really is. Not just a spooky dreamscape, but an underworld pocket realm. A deliberate layer inside something bigger and older. So here's the full takeaway in plain terms. Camazotz functions like a demiplane. It has consistent geography. It's built from Henry's memories. It traps people with hope, not force. It has a psychological weakness, the cave. And it can be navigated and solved like a dungeon, using a map hidden in plain sight. And once you see that, Episode 7 stops being dimensional weirdness and starts looking like something much bigger. Reality being reshaped by a mind that builds worlds like spells.
This whole time, everything we have ever assumed about the Upside Down has been dead wrong.
In Stranger Things 5, Episode 6, the show finally tells you the truth about the Upside Down. For 5 seasons, we've been calling it an alternate dimension, like it's just another place, another world. But Episode 6 says we've been dead wrong. The Upside Down isn't a dimension at all. It's a wormhole, a bridge, a gate. And the scariest part? They already shot the thing that holds it together. So if Episode 6 suddenly felt like Stranger Things became a different show, you're not crazy. It did. Because the rules changed. And once you see the rules, you realize what the final fight actually is. It's not kill Vecna. It's close the gate before it collapses with you inside. Let's keep this simple. Imagine your world is a house. The Upside Down is not a second house next door. It's the hallway connecting your house to something else. and episode 6 confirms that hallway is being held open by one thing: a single stabilizer, a keystone, a power source. Brenner's journal calls it exotic matter. Dustin explains it in the simplest way possible. It isn't dark magic. Vecna didn't make it. Science did. Theoretical physicists call it exotic matter, a single source of energy holding that giant wall together. That's the first massive reveal. The barrier inside the lab isn't Vecna's spell. It's a human-made stabilizer keeping the bridge intact.
I was wrong. I was terribly, catastrophically wrong. It isn't dark magic. Vecna didn't make it.
I'm listening to you.
Vecna didn't make the wall!
Science did.
In there about how long it takes a wormhole to collapse? 10 minutes, maybe 20?
Well, I thought it'd be instantaneous.
Which means Brenner didn't just study the Upside Down. He was building the doorway, and now the worst possible thing happens. Dustin says it, and nobody wants to hear it. I think Nancy just shot it. Nancy didn't shoot a monster. She shot the lock on a vault door. And even if it didn't break, it woke it up. Because later, Nancy admits the exotic matter wasn't destroyed. It was disturbed. And when you disturb something that holds reality together, you don't get a normal consequence. You get physics breaking. Nancy literally warns them. We have no idea what effect this will have on matter, space-time, gravity. This whole building could be a highly unstable, physics-defying death trap. That's not flavor dialogue. That's the show telling you the dungeon room is collapsing. And if you've ever played a fantasy game, you know exactly what this is. This is the moment where the party touches the glowing orb, and the dungeon master says, "Are you sure?" Because the orb wasn't treasure. It was the thing holding the dungeon together. The show even calls this out with a meta line. This isn't like one of your campaigns. You don't get to write the ending. And Mike fires back. Maybe I don't, but we do, because this is our story. Episode 6 is winking at you. It's admitting the structure is a campaign now. And we've entered the end game part of the module, where the win condition isn't beat the boss. It's stop the ritual, close the gate, survive the collapse. Now here's the second massive reveal, and it hits like a truck. Dustin realizes something that changes everything about where Holly is, where Max is, where any of the missing kids are. The wall wasn't made by Vecna, so he isn't on the other side, which means Holly and the missing kids aren't either. Nobody is. That means the other side of that wall isn't a place where people are being held. It's not a prison. It's not a room. It's the void, the raw space that the bridge is connected to. And when they ask the simplest question, Dustin answers with one word: death.
What the hell? Oh, God.
Steve, you guys popping? Just listen to me, okay? Don't do anything! Don't touch it! Jonathan, it's just... You will die! We will die! Holly will die! Everyone will die! Do you copy?
So now the show forces you to see it. This isn't a portal to another world. It's a portal to something that destroys you just by touching it. And that's when Dustin drops the line that should be in every thumbnail and title. This whole time, everything we assumed about the Upside Down has been dead wrong. And then he finally names it. It isn't another dimension. It's not another world. It's a wormhole, a bridge between our world and another. That right there is the Season 5 cosmology. If you're a D&D person, your brain snaps into a different mode. Because wormhole bridge between worlds is not sci-fi language. That is fantasy planar travel language. That's a gate spell. That's plane shift logic. That's two realms connected by a passage, held open by a focus. And in episode 6, they literally identify the focus. Exotic matter. One single energy source holding the bridge together. So here's the scary implication. If exotic matter is the keystone, then the Upside Down isn't a place you can explore. It's a mechanism, a structure, a spell you can break. And when you break it, it doesn't just close nicely, it collapses. Dustin warns them straight up. If the bridge collapses, it will take us with it. That's your endgame timer. Because now the heroes can't just go in. Every second they spend near it is playing chicken with reality. And episode 6 shows you that immediately. The building stops behaving like a building. They fall. They lose their path. Gravity and structure stop making sense. The place becomes a trap. Exactly like a final dungeon where the floor is falling out as you run. Episode 6 makes the environment the monster, because the environment is the gate. Now here's another clue episode 6 drops that most people will ignore. Someone says killing Henry won't end this. That's a huge D&D concept. Because in a lot of campaigns, the final twist is the villain isn't the problem. The gate is the problem. Kill the boss, the portal still bleeds. Episode 6 is quietly telling you the same thing. Vecna might be the general, but the true threat is the cosmic mechanics underneath him. And then episode 6 starts planting the next quest item, the cave. They notice a shape of light that matches the cave entrance. They talk about lining up shapes like a map, and they say it might lead to a secret location. That is classic dungeon design. When a story introduces a map to a secret place in the middle of the apocalypse, it's because that place holds the weakness, the lair anchor, the hinge, the one point where the bridge can be severed. So here's the simplest way to explain episode 6. For years, we thought the Upside Down was a world. Episode 6 says it's a doorway, and that doorway is being held open by exotic matter. One keystone, one component, and now it's disturbed. So the show isn't building to a final fight, it's building to a final shutdown. A race to close the gate before the bridge collapses and takes Hawkins with it. And that's why death is on the other side. Because what's on the other side isn't a prison. It's the raw void the bridge is connected to.
Sorcerer! A real-life, honest-to-God sorcerer!
Will Byers just admitted something that should terrify you. Because in episode 5, Will finally says it out loud. I'm not like a second L. I don't have powers. I'm siphoning, I'm stealing Vecna's.
We got our second L. I'm not like a second L. I don't have powers. I'm siphoning, I'm stealing Vecna's, and to do that, I have to be near the hive mind, and Vecna's not coming back.
That line is not character development. That line is a rule. It means Will isn't powered. He's connected. And if he's connected, Vecna can use him like a cable, or worse. Vecna can build more cables, and episode 5 tells us exactly how many. 12. Okay, let's keep this simple. Most people think there are only 2 types of supernatural people in Stranger Things. You're either like 11, you have powers, or you're normal, you don't. But episode 5 breaks that idea in half. Because Will sits right in the middle. He's not strong. He's not gifted. He's a receiver, a human antenna, and they literally call him that. Drive him around like a human antenna. That's not a joke line. That's the show telling you the mechanic in plain English. Will is not casting magic. He's picking up a signal, and that signal belongs to Vecna. So when Mike and the others start trying to label Will like it's a D&D character sheet, wizard, sorcerer, it almost feels cute, like, aw, the kids are still doing the D&D thing. But Will shuts it down. Because he knows the truth. He's not getting stronger, he's getting closer. And that means his power has a range limit, just like a spell, just like a tether, just like a warlock in D&D. Now, if you don't play D&D, here's the easiest way to understand it. A wizard is like a student. They study, they learn, they train. That's 11. A sorcerer is like a battery. The power is inside them. That's how Henry was born, and how Kaylee hints she was made. But a warlock? A warlock is a phone that borrowed somebody else's charger. It works until the charger gets pulled out. And in episode 5, Vecna doesn't just pull the charger. He yanks it out of the wall. Because Will admits another key rule. He can only siphon Vecna when he's near the hive mind. So the group doesn't say, let's train Will. They say, let's get him closer. That's why they start talking like engineers. They're not building a weapon, they're boosting a connection. And this is where episode 5 gets insane, because the plan they choose is basically dark magic dressed up as science. They take a dead Demogorgon, and they decide to pump it full of electricity. They literally compare it to Frankenstein. And think about what that really is. They're using a corpse as a focus, a conduit, a spell component. They're trying to wake up the hive particles inside something dead, so it becomes a living relay tower. That is a ritual. It's not just gross, it's smart, and it works for a moment. And that moment is the proof that changes everything. Because Will doesn't just sense something. He doesn't just feel sad and point north. He actually hijacks. He gets in. He finds the network. And for a brief second, he takes control. That is the scariest part. Not because Will is dangerous, but because it confirms Vecna's system can be hacked. Which is why Joyce drops the single most important line in the whole episode. Stab him with his own sword. That is not a random phrase. That is D&D foreshadowing. In D&D, Vecna's story always comes back to betrayal, to an inside man, to a cursed blade, to the idea that Vecna doesn't get beaten by more power. He gets beaten by his own system turning on him. So Joyce basically hands you the ending theme. Beat him using his own connection. And episode 5 proves the connection is real. But here's the catch. The same scene also proves something else. Vecna can kick Will out instantly, like a server banning an account. So Will isn't becoming the hero. He's becoming the access point. And if Vecna is the one controlling the access, that means every time Will uses the power, Vecna learns. Vecna maps the route. Vecna sees the back door. So now ask the question episode 5 wants you to ask. If Will can siphon Vecna's power, what can Vecna do with Will? And the episode answers it, right in the opening scene. Vecna looks at the kids in his prison and says the word that should make your stomach drop. Vessels.
Because they are weak. Easily broken. Easily reshaped. Controlled. The perfect vessels.
He calls them weak, easily broken, controlled. Perfect vessels. And then later, the show does something very sneaky. It connects Will's mechanic to Vecna's endgame. Because Max and the others realize the kidnapping is not the goal. The kidnapping is the setup. Vecna tells them he's using the children to reshape the world. Let's translate that into normal human language. Vecna doesn't want 12 hostages. He wants 12 batteries, 12 amplifiers, 12 living extension cords, which is why this number matters so much. All 12. It's said like a checkpoint, like a ritual circle snapping shut, like the last candle being lit. And here's what makes it even darker. Vecna isn't just stacking bodies, he's stacking minds, because minds are easier to sync, easier to manipulate, easier to tune. That's why Will was the perfect prototype. Will is already wired into Vecna's frequency. He's already proven he can carry the signal. So when Vecna says vessels, what he really means is repeatable design. And episode 5 gives you a countdown. November 6th. It's the day it ends. That's not a spooky prophecy. That's a deadline. That's a cast time. That's the ritual finishing date. In D&D terms, this is when the big spell goes off, and the party is racing the clock. Now, here's the part where episode 5 plays like a real D&D session. Because the group doesn't have one clean plan, they have two, and both are messy. Plan A is the smart plan. Rebuild the tracker with Mr. Clark. Slow, safe-ish. Plan B is the we're going to die, but we might win plan. Electrify a dead monster and pray it works. And they literally say the kind of stuff you hear at a table. No bad ideas. They're basically throwing darts because they don't fully understand what they're touching yet. And that's where Dustin's shield generator moment comes in. Dustin explains this lab like a dungeon room. He uses Return of the Jedi. He says, protective energy shield. Shield generator. He's doing what Dustin always does. He's giving the party the map. But episode 5 twists the knife. Because what they think is a shield is actually something else. They look at that sphere and assume it's dark magic. And then the warning hits. It's not dark magic. It's something else.
If you destroy it, you will die.
Everyone will die. That is such a DM moment. That's the party reaching for the glowing orb, and the DM saying, "Are you sure?" Because once you break the wrong object in a dungeon, you don't just trigger a trap, you collapse the whole room. And in episode 5, Nancy already fired.
So the consequence isn't coming later.
It already started. Now, quick side note, because this is another D&D style clue hidden in plain sight.
The episode keeps doing name magic.
There's a moment where Mike says Vecna, and someone reacts like he just said a forbidden word. Vecna? I didn't say that name. How do you know that name? That's classic fantasy logic. Names matter.
Names mean knowledge, and knowledge means power. And episode 5 keeps reminding you that Henry and Vecna are not the same thing.
Even Henry says, "Hello, my name is Henry."
The show is pushing a theme that the identity is part of the weakness.
Which matters.
Because if Will's power is a tether,
then the way you break a tether is not by punching it. It's by naming it, by exposing it,
by turning it against the owner. And that brings us to the final piece. The quick reference that changes how you should hear Vecna's speech. Because by the end of episode 5, you might think, okay, Vecna is just mind controlling these kids.
Number. He's selling them something. He promises the light. He tells them they're special, that they have dormant powers,
that they'll become heroes. He's not just forcing them to obey, he's making them want to.
And if you know D&D, that's the difference between a spell that controls you
and a spell that binds you through a promise.
A devil bargain, a Gaius.
A quest you think you chose.
And he seals it with the most important line in the episode. Because tomorrow it begins. So here's what episode 5 actually did. It didn't just give Will a new ability. It revealed Will as a connection, a living cable, a backdoor into Vecna's system. And it revealed Vecna isn't building an army. He's building a circuit, 12 vessels, 12 amplifiers, 12 chances to reshape reality. And if Will is proof the siphoning works,
then those 12 kids are not victims. They're spell components.
Which means the real question for the finale isn't,
can they beat Vecna?
It's, what happens when Vecna gets 12 wills and flips the switch?